Vanessa, I think we could start with maybe you introducing yourself
Yeah,
and telling us about mom in balance and generally speaking.
yeah. So do you want me to start?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so my name is Vanessa. I'm half Dutch, half Portuguese. I lived in several countries of the world, but I moved to Lisbon around 7 years ago. I'm a mom of three children, and I also have, on the other side, my working life, of which Mom in Balance is one of the projects I'm currently working on. So, Mom in Balance is actually an outdoor workout program for women. And when I arrived in Lisbon around 7 years ago, I every week, every day had to pass by the beautiful Jardim da Estrela in Lisbon. And I was always actually really surprised that there were not more people using the garden for sports, for picnics, etc., because that's what I was used to see in the Netherlands, where the weather is much worse, but people, whenever there is sun, go outside immediately. And that's a little bit when the idea started of bringing Mom in Balance to Lisbon. So Mom in Balance is an outdoor workout program for women, and we have specific workouts for pregnant women, for recent moms, so they can start training with us postpartum 6 weeks after giving birth. Then we have programs for women without children or for older children. And then we also have a new program which is for women in the perimenopause, so pre-menopause, during menopause, after menopause. So we have four different programs for women specifically, designed together with gynecologists and physiotherapists, really specifically for the female body.
That's a very interesting concept. First of all, I love the fact that when you arrived to Portugal, and we arrived pretty much at the same time, 7 years ago, and that was something missing. How is it that Portuguese people didn't take advantage of what is such a wonderful country where you have sunshine all the time, pretty much?
Yeah.
And why not yeah, why not doing this, right?
Yeah, I think
So
to me there were a few reasons. I think generally speaking, sports wasn't so high on the priority list. I think it is really changing, but it was different 7 years ago, definitely. And also, secondly, people felt a bit strange to work out in a park where everybody could see them. So it was just not really part of society in Portugal yet. I think COVID changed the entire world, of course, and also this part, because now if you go to Jardim da Estrela, it's very difficult to find your spot actually, because it's actually full. So it has really changed, but definitely the weather is something that makes it so perfect to work out in outdoors in Portugal.
yes, absolutely. And then the concept of mom in balance, which the name speaks for itself, really, is a wonderful thing because there's so mixed information about what you should be doing or shouldn't be doing when you're pregnant in terms of exercise, and this is a subject I would like to dive in with you now, because you do have different programs that you mentioned right before. So I would like to speak specifically about the pregnancy and postpartum, even though I'm really interested in the menopause one, because it's another kettle of fish, right?
Yeah.
But yes, the pregnant women are sometimes advised not to do much or to stop doing certain things that they used to be doing. And I would like to, for my part, as a nutritional therapist, and where I advise in lifestyle medicine, I always say movement is so important, and especially to prepare yourself for what's coming, which is birth, and which is nothing compared to what you'll be dealing with when you'll have the baby there. So you really need to keep yourself in shape. And even if you were not doing anything before, maybe it's the time to do something, so you're getting yourself ready for it, because pregnancy is a different state of being, yes, but it doesn't stop you, shouldn't stop you from having a natural way of moving in life. So I'd like you to extend a bit more on the subject of the program you have for pregnant women.
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. Women that don't do sports and women that have always been doing sports, all pregnant women should really train. You should do it in a controlled way, but there is so much scientific research that proves all the advantages of exercise during pregnancy. And I'll touch upon a few, just really diverse ones, so you can actually get a feeling. But there are many more than I'm going to call out. There's actually advantages for the mother, but there's advantages for the fetus, and there's also advantages for the child. So I'll mention a few of them so you get a feeling for it. But first of all, doing exercise in general decreases the depressive symptoms, and you'll have less anxiety. Especially when you're pregnant of your first child, you sometimes have these symptoms, and actually exercising, it has been proven that those symptoms will decrease naturally. Of course, you will have improved strength and lean muscle mass, and this is important during your pregnancy, but also afterwards. I always say being a mom is doing exercise by itself, carrying the baby, carrying the grocery, carrying the pram, and just preparing your body for that in strength training is actually really good for you. Generally speaking, reduction of gain, the weight gain that you will have during pregnancy, and also less fatigue because you'll sleep better. People that exercise sleep better, so you'll be less tired, which is also really important. And one thing that I find really striking is that it has been proven that the length of labor decreases significantly. So women that don't do exercise during birth, their length of labor average is 6.6 hours. And this reduces to 4.4 hours for people who have been doing exercise during their pregnancy. So that's a huge thing as well. And then I said there was also advantages for the fetus. So what these researchers have all proven is that there is a decreased resting heart rate of the fetus, which is really important as well. This also results in less stress. So fetuses have been measured of women that do exercise, and they experience less stress. And there's also an increased amniotic fluid level, which is also really important for the well-being of your baby. So this is for the fetus itself. And then after the baby is born, these babies of women that have exercised, they have a higher EPGAR score normally. So this is the test that's done directly after birth, and average, these people have higher scores. And they have leaner body mass. And this can be noticed until 5 years after birth. So this sounds a little bit technical, and I don't want to become technical, but I think just showing scientifically how important this is really important. I do think you should do it in a controlled environment. I also know from my personal experience, this is actually very much something you should be looking for, but it is so important, and it will just improve your physical, but also your mental health during your pregnancy.
That is such a valuable information because, just taking the fact that your labor is supposed to be shortened if you exercise, already that is a very big incentive to start working out, even if you're not working out before pregnancy.
Yeah.
And so, yes, there's no reasons for not doing it. Even generally speaking, we know the benefits it has for us. The part of the mental state is so crucial as well. Because when you think about it, yes, and especially for first pregnancies, it can be extremely, we say it in French, anxiogène. It makes you anxious because you don't know what's coming. There's I will say, pregnancy is a natural state, and there's a lot of information that actually is fear-based. Even the whole process of giving birth, and especially in the hospital, is all based on worst case scenario. Okay, so let's take the best case scenario. Let's actually work for a blissful journey through giving birth and postpartum, which is actually let's be honest, it's when things really start to get a bit more heated, if I may say. I wanted to ask you, what are the specific things that pregnant women should not be doing at all during pregnancy when they're working out?
Yeah, so this is, I think, really important. I didn't know what I know now when I was pregnant with my first son, and I went to the gym a lot. And I think the classes I was doing, the only thing that they told me not to do is abdominal exercises. But if I know what I know now, I was actually training completely wrong. So it's very important that you Mom and Balance combines strength, cardio, and relaxation, because the three of those components are really important. But at the same time, your hormones are making your muscles weaker, and especially your pelvic floor has a lot of pressure on it because of the big belly you are creating. So you have to actually take real care of your pelvic floor and of your core. So core exercises are very important to do, but you can't do them horizontally. So no planks. You should always do vertical core exercises. So core exercises are a very important part of our exercise, but you do them vertically. So against the wall or against the top part of your chair, and you can do many different exercises like that. Secondly, it's important that you don't do exercises on one leg only. You should always divide your weight between the two of them, because it has less impact on your pelvic floor. Again, we don't do exercises wider than hip width, again, to protect the pelvic floor. So you can do squats, etc., but you shouldn't do them wider than hip width. Let me think about it. Oh yeah, we always say don't go all out. So you can still jog. We also use power walking, but you can still jog. So I actually always say to pregnant women, you can run until the day you deliver. You can. It's really proven that you can. But you shouldn't do high sprints. So you should never be totally out of breath. You should go until 80 to 90% of your ability, let's say. So you can do a sprint, but never do go all the way like you would do when you're not pregnant. And those are actually the main elements that we focus on in our workouts. And I was saying earlier that during my fitness, I was actually another thing which is important, which you can't do, is jumping. So everything with high impact, and that's, I think, where I went wrong, because everything that has high impact has a big impact on your pelvic floor. So you can still do cardio. We do a lot of cardio, and it's actually really important, but you shouldn't do jumping jacks. You shouldn't be jumping up and down. You should actually do those things with bounces, low impact, varieties of all those exercises is also actually a really important part.
Wow, that's actually such valuable information, because when you think about a normal class, when you do all those things that you mentioned, but if you know what you can do, you can adapt each exercise and still follow the class. And that's, I suppose, what you're doing in your classes, because I know you have a mix of women coming to your classes, and you manage actually to orientate each of them. You're in postpartum, so you shouldn't be doing that. You should be doing this. You're pregnant, so this exercise is going to be this way for you, and therefore everyone can participate, but each one at their
within
capacity.
their restrictions.
With their restrictions. And that's the thing I love about the concept of Mom in Balance, is that it doesn't stop you. We can still be practicing the class in community. It doesn't, of course, it's great to be with mothers to be together and create that part of the community, but it doesn't have to stop you from going to where you used to go. And that's what it's beautiful about the concept, is that you bring all together these different women that have a lot to share actually between each other. So
so in the parks where I'm a bit bigger, I like to split the Pregnant Back in Shape and Empower, because I think the community part of talking about everything that you're going through is actually really important. Naturally, that happens also in the smaller parks. For instance, here where I'm now giving workouts, you'll see that the pregnant women will get more together and talk more about their subjects. Because every women in different phases of their life have different subjects to talk about. And that's also really a big part of the workout. So I do a questionnaire every year, and one of the big takeouts is the workouts are great and I get a lot of energy of it, but also I love the community. I've made new friends forever, and those two things are I think the big driver of Mom in Balance.
That's beautiful. I love the community parts.
Yeah.
Because it's essential, it's part
Yeah.
of daily life. One thing I just wanted to mention, and because you come from the Netherlands and you're a mix like I am, half, and we're not half of anything, but um,
Yeah.
you're from Holland and from Portugal, like me,
Yeah.
France and Portugal, and in usually people say that you shouldn't ride a bicycle when you're pregnant. And I remember we having that conversation. Actually, you said if you used to do it before, it's okay.
Yeah.
You can still ride your bicycle.
Yeah.
And there are a few things like that. Now, I would like to move on to the subject of postpartum, which is very important. And you said something very important right at the beginning, saying that we need to wait at least 6 weeks before we start working out postpartum. And that is true all across the board for any woman. And I think it's very important to emphasize on that, because there's a tendency or a pressure that we put to ourselves to be like, I need to get back in shape. I need to go back on my movements. And, not all women do that, but a lot of that pressure that they need to lose weight, the extra weight they gain. And so there's that rush to go back. Once the doctor tells you you're good to go, you should. But actually, postpartum is a very tender phase, if I would say. And we need to let the body recover. And I'm gonna actually go on a tangent here, because I think it's important to mention, because you were talking about the hormonal side of things. Like, the way we exercise should be synced with our cycle. The Because there's moments, and it's important to mention that when we exercise, we will release cortisol, which is the stress hormone, and it's part of it. It's a natural, I would say, a behavior of the body. But nevertheless, we need to be aware that this has an impact on our blood sugar levels. It has an impact on the rest of, your hormonal system. So when we release cortisol, we need to make sure there's a time where our body is more inclined to process it. And so postpartum is probably not the right time to release that type of thing. And the same way, right before your period, the week before our period, we should be easing on the exercise side of things, and go more on something more gentle. So we release less cortisol because we have less tolerance for it. And pregnancy is also a bit more tender. However, if you're making sure you're not doing those exercises that could be potentially harmful for your pelvic floor, and you're following those instructions, you're making sure it's not going to harm you, but still be beneficial. So in postpartum, what is your take on going back to moving and exercising, and how we should take that step?
Yeah. So where I think when we're pregnant, you're actually treated almost like sometimes by the medical system, like you have an illness and you should stop doing things. I feel that in postpartum we actually go back far too quickly. So I was already referring to it earlier. I had my first two childs are really close to each other. They were big. I had. And I actually didn't know that in postpartum you should take real care. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the do's and the don'ts before I talk about the benefits of working out, because they're again different in postpartum versus pregnancy. But I think In Mom and Balance, we won't let you do any trial workout before 6 weeks. And I have many women that come to me and say, well, 4 weeks, I've done my check with the gynecologist, I can come again and I'm released to do anything. And I said, well, in Mom and Balance, you have to wait until 6 weeks. You can start walking, you can do pelvic floor exercise, but you should really go slow. Again, your hormones, your muscles are still very weak. You still have a very weak pelvic floor. You still have a diastasis because your belly had to open up for your belly to grow. So you have to really take it slowly. When you then start with 6 weeks postpartum, from 6 to 12 weeks, everybody, no exception, is doing everything low impact. Because at that moment in time, your pelvic floor is very, very vulnerable. So the do's and the don'ts are similar to when you're pregnant. So you can't jump, you can't do horizontal core exercises. So really, I know that many women want to get their belly back, but please don't go into horizontal crunches and planking before you get to 12 weeks. This is because you really need the diastasis to close a little bit further and your core muscles to strengthen before you can do this, because otherwise you'll actually really damage your core and your pelvic floor further. And then what we do is from 12 weeks onwards, if you don't have pelvic floor problems, so pelvic floor problems means if you're still losing urine, if you have pains, then we actually keep you in the low impact longer until that has reduced. But if normally from 12 weeks onwards, we slowly build up into impact. So you can start running. So whereas in pregnancy, you can run until the end, as I said, until the day you deliver. In postpartum, which we call back in shape, you actually don't run until 12 weeks, no running at all. And this is sometimes really difficult for women to understand. I have some women that are so eager to sport and they say, well, but I've been running 10K yesterday. I'm like, oh no, you should really not do this. Despite the fact you might feel you can do it at that moment in time, this will have impact in the future. And as I've unfortunately experienced myself, I had a prolapse and I have, until the day of today, a weak pelvic floor because I didn't know what I know now. So I'm always, I will be very, very strict to women. And sometimes they really don't like it because they feel that their body can do more, but I really try to pause them. So that's a bit about the do's and the don'ts, which we really, really focus on. And then from 12 weeks onwards, we slowly build up. So you go from vertical planking towards the wall to maybe on the lower part of the chair, and slowly to the floor. And we constantly measure your diastasis. So we are there also as trainers to see how is your diastasis closing. It normally takes until 6 months. Some people take until a year, and you have some odd people in the middle that have already closed diastasis at 3 months. But normally it takes until 6 months to close, and you need the diastasis closed in order to start planking horizontally. Wow. But I think it's also important to talk about the benefits of postpartum workouts, because here I think there's a physical element, which I already touched upon a little bit, but there is definitely a psychological effect. Because here you really, if you work out, you have more energy. If you have a workout, so you can always bring your baby to workouts, but I say to women, if you can leave them with somebody once in a while, it's actually really good, because this me time and the time that you have for yourself is also just really important. I think we as women very often put ourselves really on the last spot of the list, but actually if you take care of yourself, you will be much better in taking care of others. It sounds so straightforward and people say it, but it's really, really true. So if you bring your baby, the chances that they will cry or you have to go there during the workout, it happens. And if you just have that hour for yourself. But I also really like the fact that women bring their baby and there is this community, and many women afterwards go for coffee together and they talk about the rough nights that they're having, and they're giving each other tips, and that's a really important part. So I think from you will have more. So again, a lot of scientific proven benefits, and I'll mention a few: more energy, a better mood. So really proven, scientifically proven, that women that work out postpartum have a better a positive mood. You have improved pelvic floor recovery if you work out properly after in your postpartum. and you'll have an improved diastasis recovery. So what I was saying, the diastasis will be easier to close it if you do exercises, the right exercises. And then this is not only for postpartum, but because we are outdoors actually have a lot of positive impact by itself. So there's vitamin D that you will benefit from. Training in outdoors where you see green has a positive effect on your mood and your energy levels and your sleep. So just to mention a few, but there's many more. But many benefits from working out postpartum, and then outdoor give you even more different elements to it. So yeah.
I love the fact that you mentioned that the benefits of being outdoor. Yes, the vitamin D, and even though in winter we're not producing it, the sun itself, the sun really has an impact on our the fabrication of our hormones.
Yeah.
And because it regulates our circadian rhythm and helps us sleep better, and helps us also regulate the cortisol levels along the day. And because it's a stressful time, where we're adapting, it's very important that we stay in contact with nature, because that's where we will get our strength from. The fact too that we are outside, or we could be in a forest, will also bring that we talk about forest bathing, and that's one of the elements that you can get from being outside, with the fact that you get all these phytonutrients that are in the air. You're breathing them literally. So that is definitely a great benefit. As for what you said about, we all know that we should take care of ourselves first, but mothers have a hard time to integrate that. And it's I always think about that metaphor analogy of the airplane crash, where you should always put your mask on before you reach out and help someone else to breathe in for air. And it's so true in everything in life, actually. The thing is, and we see it more and more, that mothers are really isolated, and sometimes they don't get the help from outside. Maybe there's a business to add to a babysitter that could be taking care of the babies.
Yeah, that's why you can always bring your child. And I was giving this example, if you come once in a while, but actually we have many women that come with their babies, and actually that's also part of their routine, of their daily or their weekly thing, to go out of home. And even older children are sometimes coming to our workouts as well. Mothers bring them, and they're playing football on the other side of the field, which is also having the children shouldn't are, for at least for Mom and Balance, we say the fact that you have children should not mean that you can't exercise. If it means that you have to bring them, then just bring them.
Yes, absolutely.
I also always say, so sometimes women are like, sorry, I'm 20 minutes late. My just when I got out of the home, the baby started crying. I had to change the diaper. And I always say, even if you come 5 minutes, it's always worthwhile. So I totally understand that things go differently than you had planned initially, especially when you have a newborn. But every minute counts. And very often, the other day we had a woman, and she brought her baby and her dog because nobody could stay with the dog. And she felt really stressful because the dog was barking a lot. And I said to her, don't worry about the dog. Nobody is actually listening to the dog. Just focus on yourself. And then the baby also got calmer, the dog got calmer, and she did the full hour. But actually after 10 minutes, she said, I think I'm leaving. And I said, no, try 5 more minutes. I'm sure you'll be fine. And she stayed. And then, of course, at the end, you get this feeling of, oh, I'm so glad I stayed. I did it. I made it work, So I think it's also, even if it doesn't go as you planned, a bit of exercise is better than nothing.
Wow, that's such a very good example. And actually how, because when you're stressed, your stress will reflect on the closest people around you.
Yeah.
And obviously, baby gets stressed, the dog gets stressed.
Yeah.
And when she relaxes, most likely that's when everyone starts relaxing and things flow. And and yeah, you're right. It's because people think that 5 minutes is nothing. No, no, it is important because you get that connection going out. First of all, you're going out of your routine, you're connecting with people, and you're moving no matter what, even if it's so for 5 minutes. And yes, and children can participate. I remember last time I went, my son participated to the class, and that was
Yeah,
also very funny.
yeah,
When they're old enough, of course,
yeah,
to do the exercises. So that's oh, there's one extra thing I wanted to touch on regarding the diastasis, which maybe we could explain a bit further what it is for people that are not familiar with, because it's the your front muscles of your abdominals open while you're
yeah,
pregnant to let your belly grow.
yeah,
And as you give birth, this takes time to go back in place. And some women actually even have problems going back to shape, and they need they don't actually, and that's when you have those women that have this belly where skin seems very flaccid. So it's an important important information to know when
yeah,
to start doing abdominals again and not forcing it before it's the right time, because
yeah,
there can be really strong consequences. There's a type of exercise that are usually advised to do, which are hypopressives. I don't know
yeah,
if you say it in English like this,
yeah,
where it's about respiration, really.
yeah,
And
yeah.
is this something you also include in the
We don't do
postpartum
it in
class?
Mom in Balance, but I know it's actually really important. What our philosophy is a bit more. We focus on the core as a whole, and really on the transversal abdominal as in principle, because the transversal abdominal is actually it's not your straight muscle group, but it's actually one which goes which is at the bottom. Yeah,
Oh, your
and that
pelvis.
one is actually linked to your pelvic floor. So when a trainer would say, put your belly button in, you can actually feel it yourself. You will automatically be contracting this abdominal, this transversal abdominal. And this one is actually yeah, it's almost the most important muscle in your core muscle group. Also because it's linked to the pelvic floor. Very often the diastasis, so women that close a diastasis late have a weak pelvic floor. These ones are very much related. And I think, and this is also where I think society is not giving the right cues, because a lot of women are actually, and you see them doing the crunches and the planks and etc. from the start. But this is counterproductive, because what you have your straight muscles that are still open, and actually you're putting force on it. So you can imagine that your organs are actually moving outwards through that hole and making it a bit more extreme. But that's actually really what's happening. So you need this protection to close first in order to be safe to do those type of muscles. And if you do this when they're not open yet, it will be more difficult to close them. But then still, I mean, I also have women that come and start working out with me later. And then we actually discover quite 9 of the 10 times we can discover that their pelvic floor is weak. So we start from there, strengthening the pelvic floor during the workouts. We do it a little bit, but we also have in our portal a lot of exercises that you can do at home to strengthen your pelvic floor, so the specific muscles that you can do. And then by having a controlled way, you can actually still, despite the fact that you still have a bit of a diastasis, you can have by training in a certain way, you can have a controlled way. You still can go into planks as soon as your core function is totally strengthened. So you will find people that have a bit of a diastasis still, but they can go into horizontal planking because they have recovered their core strength fully. And we have several tests to test that with women.
That's fantastic.
But
I
not
love
going
it.
too quickly is the most important tip
Okay.
ever. And I think, and this is really where I think gynecologists should also help us more, because they really protect us during pregnancy, but they don't protect us after pregnancy, because they are not so concerned about our pelvic floor. I'm generalizing a little bit, and I know there are many that are actually moving in this direction. But I have so many women that come to me at 4 weeks and say, well, my doctor has liberated everything. And I said, well, with us, you can really only start at 6 weeks, and you won't be able to run, and you won't be able to do crunches. And they're like, yeah, but my doctor said I could. And I said, yeah, but you can't. So it's and this shows how this actually, I'm even more passionate about postpartum workouts than pregnant workouts, because of my personal situation, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah, you the fact that you experienced it yourself,
Yeah.
that it makes you more passionate about it, which
Yeah.
in a way we're benefiting from your own experience, your
Yeah.
own personal experience. That's a very beautiful way to actually put at service or inspire other people to take good care of themselves, really. And that's beautiful. Regarding the locations where you're doing Mom in Balance, there's a few in Lisbon, right? And would you like to tell us
So
where
I
you're
started
located?
in Jardim Estrela, this park I passed by twice a day when I arrived in Lisbon. That's also my biggest park, and that's where I have the most hours available. And then we also start in Campo Grande, so that's our second location. We have 3 workouts a week there. We also have workouts in Oeiras, so that's also where we have currently 4 workouts per week. And I moved from Lisbon to Verdizela, which is on the Margem Sul, in July last year, and I decided to also continue giving workouts here. So we currently also have 2 workouts here. So it's a bit of a mix of locations. There's not so much logic around it, but the big thing is that the Mom in Balance concept is about training close to your home. Because if you have to travel half an hour to get somewhere, then the chances you'll make it every week or twice a week is less, because we really want to get people into a rhythm. That's also why I don't have like pay as you go type of concept, because I really want women to come every week, because otherwise there will always be a reason not to come. So if you just have a fixed membership, you will feel more obliged to come every week on Saturday, and you make it part of your routine. But yeah, that's the concept. So I have many women that walk to the workout or bike to the workout or take a very small, short car ride and then join us. So it's a neighborhood workout. That's what we call it.
Wow, fantastic. And what about the rest of the country? You know, now that you've extended a bit outside of Lisbon to the Margem Sul, what about the rest of the country? Is there any plans for...
we're always interested to grow further. I try to focus on getting the parks that I have big first, and make sure that the women that train there have enough flexibility in the hours, and then we move to a different park. But I always say to women, if you find 8 to 10 women to do a trial, then well, maybe not in Porto, but if it's in the surroundings of Lisbon, we will we're always open to do a trial.
Fantastic, fantastic. Vanessa, thank you so much for all this valuable information. I think it's so important. I would love to touch a bit on the menopause side. I know it's not the subject of the webinar today, but still, I think it's important to introduce it, and maybe we can have another chat another day to dive into it more deeply. But what are the things that you specifically, in terms of exercise, implement during that time of our lives, which is menopause?
So there, the workouts are still based on the similar system of combining cardio and strength. But here it's really focused on the changing body. So we know that we're losing muscle mass every year. So we really focus even more on strength and repetitive strength. So we do, whereas maybe in Empower or in Back in Shape, we would do 1 or 2 cycles. Here we very often do more repetitions, and so we stay in the exercise longer. An element that we add to this workout is meditation, a bit of meditation at the end, because here mindfulness becomes really important. As your hormones change, this is an important element of what you need. So we try to include, it's only 5 minutes or 7 minutes at the end, but a bit of mindfulness at the end. And the stretching is more important. So It's always important, but it becomes even more important because your muscles are getting tighter and you actually want to extend them as much as possible. So we do a bit more of the warming up will be a bit more combined, an active stretching type of warming up sometimes, and we do a bit more stretching at the end and different type of stretching. And cardio is still very important, but you don't want to actually, you want to limit the high impact exercises, so a bit less of jumping, but still bringing the heartbeat up, because you still want to improve your cardiovascular system as much as you can, because also that changes with age. So it's built on the same concepts, but with different type of exercises, slightly different type of exercises, and a bit of a different build-up of the workout. But also here, it's really important, the community part and the sharing part is really important, because unfortunately, it's still a bit of a taboo. And if we talk about it, if we're in a workout with more women in the same age group, then we can talk about it, we can share experiences, and we can also learn from each other. And that's a little bit also the concept for this Empower Next exercise workout.
Beautiful, beautiful. I love all the focuses you have, and it's very interesting, because in nutritional therapy we always emphasize on the fact that it's so important to keep your muscle mass.
Yeah.
Because that is also what's going to help you in terms of longevity. It's going to sustain also, or stop you from osteoporosis, and that is the thing I keep on banging the drum on. We need to keep your muscles up. So in terms of nutrition, it's very important to have a lot of protein.
Yeah.
But the physical part is extremely essential. And yes, we need to support our stress, or reduce our stress, because the adrenal glands, which actually produce cortisol, which are cortisol and adrenaline, are also what are going to take over producing estrogen when you stop producing it from your ovaries. But if you're highly stressed, then estrogen doesn't get produced, and that's when you're starting to get the symptoms of menopause or perimenopause, which are the hot flashes, the hair loss, or the fact that your memory is not helping you, you're losing your focus. So yes, managing your stress is extremely important, so you can produce you keep on producing the estrogen you need to function normally. But yes, there will be alterations no matter what. And yes, and the stretching, of course, at the end, which is very valuable. Vanessa, is there anything that you would like to add to wrap up, that you think is important that we haven't touched on, and that you feel is important to mention for anyone?
No, yeah, I think one of the key also maybe drivers for Mom in Balance is that every woman can train, no matter in which physical or psychological state you are. We will help you, and every woman trains really in its own pace, and I think that's an important part of the Mom in Balance concept. We train in a group, but I always also say there is really a component of a personal trainer element to it, because we know everybody by name, we know your situation, and we will really help you to train in your own level and within your own boundaries, dependent of your lifestyle stage, but also your physical stage. So I think that's important. Be kind to yourself, and then everything will be easier in general.
Wow, fantastic. Well, thank you for bringing that concept of working out outside in a country that allows it pretty much all year long, unless it's raining. And even when it's raining, actually, it's doable. It's absolutely
we always train. So that's the first question many women, especially Southern European women, ask me, so what do you do when it rains? And then first I say it never rains in Portugal. And then I say, and if it rains, then we're still here. I think we all agree that if it's really pouring it down and you have to go out of your house, that's a bit of a challenge. But if you're already on the field and it starts pouring down, you will be even more proud when you stand under the shower after the workout. And this is also a bit of a misconception that you get ill while training in the rain. You won't. You just have to keep your water body warm. So I always have a big plastic bag where we put jackets in, and then after the workout you can wear it. And at the beginning, mostly Southern European women would all sign out when there was rain forecast, but now they already know, they've experienced, first of all, the forecast is very often wrong. And secondly, they've all experienced by coincidence a bit of rain, and they now realize. And I always say, I mean, there's women training in Sweden with snow and they bring their babies. So if they can do it in snow with their babies, then we can do it with a bit of rain in 20
Absolutely.
degrees.
Absolutely. I love it. I love it. Yes, yes, it's a cultural thing, and
Yeah,
it's how you've been used to and how
yeah,
you've been raised. And I love that the fact that in the end people are extending their views on how
yeah,
things can be done.
yeah.
So yes, yes, it's fantastic. That's why I love that you brought this in Portugal, and I love the whole concept. And
Thank you so much,
um
Audrey. It was really nice
yes.
to have the time to explain a little bit more about the concept, and thank you so much for the invite.
Well, you're very welcome, and maybe we'll do another one on specifically other subjects. But thank you, Vanessa, and keep on expanding, and I'll see you around.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.